10 places where people and nature coexist perfectly. Humankind's relationship with nature has been confounded. From the far-off agrarian past straight up to the present, we have depended vigorously on the normal bounties harvested from the climate. While a great many people have moved to office work, cooperating and coinciding with nature has never been more significant. In light of that, the following are 10 spots all over the planet where individuals and nature exist together. Mesa Verde and the Anasazi. First up on our rundown is maybe a one-of-a-kind exception. Plateau Verde isn't presently a populated city yet, rather is a public park safeguarding many exceptional species native to the plateau and the remnants of the Anasazi public who once lived and coincided with their regular habitat in the area. The previous towns and urban communities of the Anasazi were incorporated into and on top of the plateau, framing extremely unmistakable pictures. Like most local people groups, the Anasazi were masters of living in harmony with nature. They held a profound regard for nature and put extraordinary spotlight on living as one with it, trusting that doing so would prompt better lives, a conviction that stays pervasive today. Denver, Colorado. Settled on the eastern edge of the Rockies, Denver had humble starting points as a mining town during the mid-1800s. Pike's pinnacle dash for unheard of wealth. Nicknamed the Mile High City because of its position a mile above ocean level, Denver has since become its own district and the capital of Colorado. Known for its extraordinary ski slants and its part in the game Skyline, Zero First Light, Denver likewise has a plenty of green spaces. Throughout the spring and summer, ethereal shots of the city uncover a rich, green scene encompassing a little group of high-rises. Denver has more than 200 stops and green spaces, the biggest of which is essentially called City Park. Covering an enormous 314 sections of land, City Park is an area encircled by a bigger park space. Beyond the actual city, Denver approaches a wide assortment of trails, public parks, and mountain tops for the courageous. The modern-day Curwood Castle. Curwood Castle looks like it has been scooped right out of a fairy tale. The structure was the home of James Oliver Curwood, an action-adventure novelist from the turn of the 20th century with a taste for the fantastic. The house is like a miniature fairyland castle complete with flagstones, towers, and turrets. Perhaps more impressive than the castle itself is its location. The castle is set in the middle of a small park and is surrounded by trees on the banks of the Chautauqua River in Owasso, Michigan. It would have been the perfect getaway for an author looking for inspiration in nature. It has been preserved in that state and now serves as a museum and public park. Chautauqua Lake, New York. The Chautauqua Lake District of New York is a splendid combination of humble communities and moving backwoods. Found 90 minutes from Niagara Falls, Chautauqua Lake was initially utilized for ice mining during the unforgiving, upstate New York winters. Excavators would cut lumps of ice out of the frozen lake and pack them into carts to be transported across New England. While the times of ice mining are gone, a large part of the area stays unaltered. Towns are settled in woods clearings, and structures are put any place there is free space. During the summers, exceptional occasions are held that send vacationers and locals the same out into the wild, and keeping in mind that the ice is not generally dug for exchange purposes, it is utilized to shape unbelievable ice figures in the colder time of year. Maybe my most loved is the quantity of untamed life we see here. It's very normal for deer and other woodland critters to come up to individuals. The best way to make the region more fantasy-esque would be in the event that there was a palace close by. Perhaps Curwood Palace could be moved. The Ruralization of Chicago, Illinois. Situated on the shores of Lake Michigan, Chicago is presently the third most crowded city in the U.S., without any indication of dialing back its development. The city experienced a significant difficulty because of the suitably named Extraordinary Chicago Fire, however, has since recovered. This is no place more clear than the city's Green Sound area's drive. Throughout the course of recent years, Chicago has started remodels of a portion of its more seasoned, less protected neighborhoods, fully intent on changing them into a monstrous 13-square-mile area of parks, homesteads, and trails. This cycle has been continuous, and the outcomes are now clear from the wonderful green streaks presently seen all through the city. Amsterdam, Netherlands. Amsterdam's old, more established than most different puts on this rundown, Amsterdam was first settled by ranchers centuries prior. Since those modest starting points, it's become the capital of a country, one that pulls many individuals from across the world. Amsterdam's public exist together with nature in maybe more clear ways than others. First of all, large numbers of their roads are cleared with water. Amsterdam is notable for its waterway framework, a consequence of extremely cautious arranging when Amsterdam's movement rates started getting. Maybe along these lines, the roads are fixed with a verdant cluster of trees and stop spec the city, including the Vondelpark, Amsterdam's biggest green space and one that draws in huge number of guests every year. A city's truly in contact with its environmental factors. Central Park, New York City. At the point when one has gotten some information about where you can find nature and individuals together in the U.S., one could normally leap to New York City's focal park. The enormous stretch of green hangs out as a conspicuous difference with the encompassing places of business and high-rises, a man-made casing of steel and glass for the delightful green canvas. Central Park is more than 2 miles in length, a portion of a mile wide, and is north of 700 sections of land in region. The recreation area gets a huge number of guests every year and is quite possibly of the most tourist region in the U.S. Concealed in the midst of the foliage are a wealth of attractions, including a shopping center, a palace, a few bars, and a zoo, to give some examples. It genuinely is a wonder and where individuals exist together with nature. The Majesty of 25 Verde. Very nearly a little town all by itself, 25 Verde is a structure, a nursery, and a craftsmanship piece moved into one. Situated in Milan, Italy, the structure was first brought about by Luciano Pia, who has an ability for mixing the normal and the man-made. Pia's objective was to carry the close-by slopes into the city and give it some more green space, and he succeeded. 25 Verde is a 3-sided, box-molded apartment complex encompassing a wonderful, raised park. Trees, blossoms, and vegetation cover its patios and accessible surfaces, and, surprisingly, the structures were worked to mix in with green paints and rust-hued steel. The consolidated endeavors of the genuine plants pull many liters of carbon dioxide from the air. This makes it act nearly as a living channel for Milan, the origin of Fiat, and one that, on the off chance that very much kept up with, should keep going for quite a long time into the future. Auckland, New Zealand. As any aficionado of the Ruler of the Rings can perceive, New Zealand is perfect. Wide, clearing fields run along stony slopes and through woodlands, directly down to the banks of Auckland, the country's biggest city. Laid out by the Maori, joined by the English, initially the capital before Wellington, and presently a global blend of societies, Auckland likewise fills in as a prologue to New Zealand's normal wonders. Besides the close-by gorgeous moving slopes, Auckland was based on the Auckland volcanic field, a gathering of volcanic focuses that have been generally lethargic for the beyond a few thousand years. The Maori utilized a significant number of the mountains as fortresses. A couple of the leftover mauna have been protected and coordinated as parks and landmarks. Really an exceptional method for incorporating nature. The blended urban forest of Singapore. The island city province of Singapore is, maybe, the most harmless to the ecosystem city internationally. There are a few spots in Singapore itself that might have made this rundown, including the huge air terminal, which contains a zoo and a new, enormous park, and a Goliath man-made cascade. As opposed to fill the whole rundown with those, we'll simply handle the whole city as one spot. Everything about the cutting-edge city has been intended to fortify the climate. From the many years in early arrangement to the situating of its blocks, roads, and parks. A large part of the new development is shrouded in vegetation, and endeavors are being made to build those green spaces and safeguard the common habitat and natural life. Indeed, even its homesteads have been altered, transformed into upward, indoor designs. There aren't numerous advanced places more in contact with their current circumstance like Singapore.